Hello? All right, if everybody could grab a seat, we're going to get started. I'm going to sit far away. That was a Shrek reference for anybody who knows Shrek. No? Just me and Steph? I saw Steph go, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
All right, so we're doing this meeting today. It's kind of like, when you use a computer for weeks on end without rebooting it or restarting it, how things kind of get bunged up and maybe things aren't operating quite as smoothly as they could. We want to do that with residents. Okay, we're just going to push restart. Some things need to maybe be upped, more focused on more diligently, those kinds of things. All right?
All right, well, I'm just going to get started. Again, thanks so much, everybody, for coming. Just like Eldon said, I know it can get pretty redundant when RAs tell you guys the rules or XYZ, but the reason why they do that is because it's their job and they represent us. So sometimes it's just easier to say, let's all come together, we're all on the same team, and let's just do better together. Cool? So we're just going to start with some general cleanliness stuff, which we all love to talk about. It's like I feel like the mom constantly being like, clean your room. All right, so just a reminder, especially with the spread of Omicron, just because of how easily it is transmitted, just a reminder of cleanliness. So that's all like common areas and bathrooms. Let's just make sure to be extra clean. Out of just respect for one another, right? So it is a shared space. This is all of our homes. And so let's just make sure that we remember that even if we think it's okay to, leave toothpaste in the sink or hair in the shower, back at home, wherever home is, when we're home here, it's a shared space where, that may not be the way that other people feel safe and comfortable, right? So we just want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence in keeping all of that stuff clean. And then also, just for the time being, there's going to be no eating in the residence lounges. And so the reason for that is, again, just COVID related. And so we'll obviously revisit that once restrictions hopefully lift. But just for the next couple of weeks, that's the way that we're going to be doing things, especially because one thing that we really noticed last semester was that those lounges were, disgusting. I'm just going to be real with you guys. They got to the point where, food was left, and it was gross. And it shouldn't be anybody's responsibility to clean that up. So, unfortunately, no food for now until we kind of figure that out. And then, just again, a reminder that all food garbage goes outside, although I've been really, really impressed. So this is like a double thank you because for the most part, I see you guys doing that. It's just become kind of routine, throwing it out in the garbage, so outside, and just keep doing that. You guys are doing awesome, and so I appreciate it. But yeah, just a reminder. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to? Okay, sure, all right. So then another thing is noise/quiet hours. So I know I made a knock at the girls during chapel, but I was genuinely teasing. They are most of the time quiet after 11, but this was something that we noticed was a big issue last semester. So I don't want to be harsh, but I just think that we're all adults here. So ultimately, you choose to be here. No one is forcing you to come. And so we don't have to like the rules. We just have to follow them. There are some rules that I don't like, but I have to follow, right? So quiet hours is one of those things. And so, we've asked the RAs to crack down on it, but there's only so much that RAs can do. And they're your peers and your friends, and it's uncomfortable for them to constantly ask. And then not only that, but get, flack back is just not appropriate. Ultimately, it's not appropriate. And think about it this way. A lot of people in this room, you may actually end up working with one day. So right now, they're your friends and your peers, but they also may be your colleagues. And the last thing that you want is to go into a position where there's awkwardness between the two of you because you gave someone disrespect just because he didn't like a rule. right? And vice versa, the RAs may seem kind of like they're policing because they're constantly having to remind, but that's not something that they like to do. And we talk about it constantly in our RA meetings because it makes them uncomfortable. It'd make anybody uncomfortable when they're constantly having to nag on people, right? That's not something that they enjoy either. So I just want to make that clear that unfortunately that's part of their role, but it's not fun for them to do either. So it goes both ways, right?
I could just add something to that. Peter and Allison will deal with this somehow. I'm not quite sure yet, but last semester we had the fewest number of students ever at Masters, partially because of COVID, but we had the greatest number of extension requests than ever before. And we almost need to hire somebody part-time just to deal with extension requests, but we're not going to do that. They're just going to lessen the number of extensions given. Now, part of the reason for that, I'm convinced, is poor habits. A lot of extensions, some extensions were incredibly valid. There's deaths in families, way more than we ever normally see in a 3-month period. A lot of family stuff going on. That's completely understandable. But if you're not finishing assignments because you haven't done them early on, by the way, if it's week 2, if you haven't started on assignments already for later on the semester, you need to, because they're going to come. That time is going to come. You know that. The calendar is going to turn to March, and those majors are there. So don't wait till March to do them. Right, but part of it too is I was hearing that there was guys still up till 2, 3 in the morning trying to get to class or sleeping through class in the morning and failing assignments by no attendance. Think about that. You paid how much, $700 for a course, and you fail because you didn't get there. Think about that. If you had a job and you were working and you're getting paid money and you didn't go, you think, oh, I'm so stupid, now I have no money. But now think how ridiculous it is. You pay for something, then don't go and get what you're paying for. Right, so think about that, and let's be respectful of everybody in the community, because everybody here is our customers, so to speak. You're paying to be here. Let's create the kind of environment where study is a healthy thing and a good thing and something that's more easy for people to do. Right, so that's why we're asking for the RAs to crack down more on the noise factor, especially in quiet hours. Right.
Do you want to chat through COVID restrictions and things like that, or do you want me to take it?
Sure, yeah, with COVID restrictions, we're not going to go through it. You guys have already read it. You've signed an agreement. If you signed the agreement without reading it, shame on you. But I expect we're all playing on the same team here. I live by the same restrictions you do. I live in the GTA, and I have to be careful everywhere I go and cautious. And if I get sick, I'm isolating. So please just remember that we're not against anybody here. We're not trying to crack down on people for being, because we're targeting you for any reason or whatever. We're all playing by the same rules, all right? So you saw that we had to up the ante on COVID. And honestly, my job was difficult last year, handing out $100 fines and stuff. So I asked the lead team to reduce it. So now it's just no questionable. If we're not doing what we're supposed to do, it's just a $30 fine. And it's just way easier for us to manage that than having to figure out grace periods and were you in the right or the wrong. No, we're just kind of, again, we're all expected to do the same things all the time. And honestly, if you find me not doing something, then you feel free to call me out on it, and I'll contribute $30 to something, okay? So I'm not above the rules or above the law with this. There's something else I was going to say, but I forget what it was, so go on. I'll remember.
All right. So just a reminder also that anybody with any sort of symptoms have to self-isolate. So the reason why is if you have a little bit of a stuffy nose or a sore throat and you feel better the next day, that's fine. We're just going to ask you to isolate for those 24 hours, right? So don't wait till you actually have full-fledged symptoms, because again, with this new variant, it's very likely that you won't have strong symptoms. You'll feel okay, right? So that being said, we do have basically an isolation spot for the female students as well as the male students. So female students would be in the basement, so now no one's living in the basement that way, and then the boys will have a couple of rooms. You'll notice that there's a line of rooms that are kind of empty, so that would be kind of the isolation space. And if, for any boys wondering, if someone was to isolate, then we'd find a different bathroom for that wing to use so that you're not sharing bathrooms with people who are feeling sick. So again, I know last semester there was a couple of people who I noticed walked around with tissues because they were blowing their nose and they were stuffed up and whatever. So that would have been okay, because last semester you're you're not going to get COVID unless you have a full-on flu for the most part, but this one is a little bit different, right? So we just want to be extra safe. Yes, and then there is an option if you do feel sick or ill, you can go home. So it's not okay, you're locked in the basement and you can't leave, right? So again, our job is to serve you guys and make sure that you get the care that you need, as well as all of your peers, right? So we're just trying to figure it out and make it as easy as possible for everybody to get help if they need it and to feel safe and healthy if they are. So
Another reason we're being so hardcore is it doesn't make sense for us to come back to campus and then people are just sitting in class with just the sniffles, and then somebody else gets it, and somebody else gets it, somebody else. Now nobody's going to live classes, you're all having to isolate. So we want to be hardcore on it, so people who are feeling sick, not normal, then just isolate till you figure out what's going on. There's no testing anymore because the government won't do testing. We do have some rapid tests for people whose symptoms get more severe. At that point, you probably need to decide what you're going to do. If I'm isolating, I don't want to be in a residence room. I'm going to go home. You might not have that ability to do that, so we're going to have isolation space for you to be, all right? So like Eden said, don't take a chance. If you have a bit of a sore throat or cough, don't try to hide it and say, well, I'm just going to work my way through this. No, because we want to make sure that doesn't get passed on to anybody. You also have profs that come here. They represent their families, but also if they go under sick, then now you're also losing out. You're not going to be there to teach their courses, right? So we have to manage this scenario pretty carefully. Somebody have their hand up over there?
Jenny
or?
did.
Yep.
You'll be able to zoom in. So if you're isolating, the classes will have like a Zoom link available, right? So you won't be missing any classes if you isolate and you go online.
Yeah, everything's staying live stream this semester for that reason.
You want me to? Okay.
Well, I can do it.
Well, we can tag team. You can start, and then I'll add on.
All right, so we just also want to talk about the TVOA staff. And as you know, they work hard around here. Is it perfect? No, nobody's perfect. But at the same time, we want to really respect them for a couple of reasons. Number one, they work hard. Number two, they're coming here during a COVID pandemic when a lot of people aren't working during the pandemic, so they're taking additional risk on themselves, cleaning our bathrooms and all that kind of stuff where, this stuff can be living. But thirdly, they're also not Christian people, most of them. And so we have multiple layers of reasons why we want to be respectful to them, right? So both in the cafeteria and the cleaning staff. And it's female cleaning staff who are coming into the guys' residence, for example. I think Eden should talk about this because she's pretty passionate about this aspect of us, being a woman. But just remember, for the various reasons we want to be respectful. Never in Christendom do we have the right to be judgmental of people based on whether or not they serve us well or not. We actually are supposed to be the greatest servant of all. So when you're not getting service at the cafeteria the way you might expect to as a Canadian or as a Bible college student who's paying for this or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you have a real serious issue, then talk respectfully with the person that you need to talk to and deal with it that way. But don't get snotty with people who aren't doing what you think they should do. We have other ways for that to be dealt with that's more respectful, right, and the proper channel. So please do that. And then with the cleaning staff as well. They may come in at times you're not expecting them and it catches you flat-footed and you're not quite sure how you're going to get to class on time. There's no reason to bark at them and to be disrespectful to them. They're just trying to do their job. All right? If there's a problem with timing, then Eden will address that with TVOA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. And so this part, I don't want to come off as harsh, but it is directed a little bit more towards the guys. And I think that I have enough relationship with maybe each one of you outside of Owen, so Owen, I'm very sorry. I'm not mean, I promise you. I think that there has honestly been just an overall issue with respect. And I'm going to challenge you guys to step up your game. Because any one of you that has had an individual conversation with me has been nothing but respectful, so I know you can be. Because I genuinely love every single one of you, and I have the utmost respect for you, and I think that you guys have potential and capacity, but you shoot yourselves in the foot when you're disrespectful or do stupid things to people around you. So one of those things is RAs. Just because our RA team is maybe a little bit more timid doesn't give you the right to walk all over them. It doesn't matter if you're louder. It doesn't matter if you don't like the rules. You should respect them as a brother in Christ, as well as an RA, and submit to their authority because ultimately they're representing us. And when you give flack to them, think about the way that you're talking to them is actually the way that you're talking to me. And I know that you would never talk to me in ways that you talk to them sometimes. So I would really encourage you guys to step it up. Secondly, this is something that I just wanted to mention and then I have to go. But I know that you guys had a Christmas list thing, on the toilet paper roll. We know what we're talking about, right? With all the I wish things for Christmas. Don't laugh, because I don't find it funny. I'm going to be honest with you. John came to me, and he said that his female staff was really, really offended by some of the things that they read on there. And honestly, when I went through the dorms and I read it, I found it offensive and disrespectful. I know I'm coming off harsh, but I want to make sure that you understand the severity of these types of things, okay? These women are coming into the dorms, and they're women, and they're not Christian. And this is the only view of Christian manhood that they're getting, is jokes about women's bodies and sex that they don't understand. And their view of it isn't, oh, this is funny because bridal college, and we want to get married, and sex is funny, and X, Y, Z. No, they're thinking, wow, these people are Christians, and all they care about is my body, and they're sexualizing me. I feel uncomfortable walking through this space. So it may be funny to you, but it's not funny to the people around you, and it's not funny to me. So remember, the things that you do matter, and they stick with you. And I believe in every single one of you, and I believe that you're better than that, because I know you guys. I know you individually. And again, I don't think that you would ever make that kind of joke or that behavior towards me, and I truly trust and believe that that was not your intentions, but there needs to be a shift in how you guys behave. You need to step it up, and I believe that you can. I believe that you can and that you will. So I'm sorry, I know that's harsh. I'm shaking because I hate having these types of conversations. You know me, it's not fun when I have to talk this way, but I love you guys enough to be honest with you. Does that make sense? So now I'm gonna mic drop, and I actually do have to leave because I have to drive Jess and Joyce to the airport. But again, I really do, I love you guys, and I am saying it because I love you. And if I didn't love you, I wouldn't say anything at all.
Okay, thanks. Communication in the residence, you might think it's a private space but it's not. There are people that come into that space. It's much like social media. We put social media out there in public, it's a public space. So just remember that. And I think that's an important lesson for all of us in leadership, that we always have to, in the back of our minds, be aware of the audience that's watching us, listening to us. So it's actually a good leadership lesson. So I just want to add one more thing, and then this meeting's finished, unless there's any questions, and that is just to reinforce the RA respect. It really hurts me to know that people would give disrespect to our RAs. I think it's the hardest job in student leadership because RAs have to put themselves out there. They have to be as peers, kind of disciplining peers. Sometimes people older than them, more experienced than them, and that's not an easy place to be. It is an important leadership lesson for all of us, though, is to be able to give leadership to our peers and those older than us, especially if you're starting out in ministry and you're the youngest one in the church. But at school here, they're trying to do their best, and if you can talk to them rationally about decisions they make or things they say, do that. Maybe not in the moment, because maybe somebody's heated, but go back to them an hour later and say, can I talk to you about that? If that doesn't work, you always have an avenue to come to Eden or me. But don't be lipping off people and just making casual comments that are just silly, because put yourself in their shoes, and how do you respond when you get treated that way, right? So please try to understand that. And I know everybody's trying to have fun, and it's a college residence and stuff, so we don't want to lessen the fun at all, but let's just be respectful in the way we do it. It's part of our Aorta values. Our R is right in the middle. It's respect. And so it's not just respecting those who are your profs and your staff here, but it's each other. And some of us just need to learn to do that better, right? So I encourage you to do that. All right, is there any questions about anything we said or something we haven't said that needs to be addressed? Yeah. Okay, good question. I think you asked me that in the fall, didn't you? Okay, yeah, so what we're going to do is the bathrooms now on these 2 floors are open for anybody to use, right? Not the basement, though. The basement is reserved for faculty and staff. We just want them to know they have a place they can go where they don't have to interact with students. Not to say that badly, but we have to keep 3 meters of distance, 6 meters of distance in the classroom. We want to do the same thing when they're using at the break going to a washroom, all right? So the basement ones are reserved for faculty and staff. And the other ones, you don't have to walk back to your residence or whatever to use a washroom. You can use the ones that are upstairs or on the main floor. Yes, Jenny? That's not our call. Library is is TVOA actually. It's more for the kitchen staff because the cafeteria is in that building, so it's really up to them. Yeah, Steph? Thank you. Okay, so I understand it's cold in residence, and I heard it via the grapevine or directly from RAs. I stayed my first night in the residence last night, and there was absolutely no heat in that room, which I actually like, but I got lots of blankets, so I like that. But I understand why people would find that irritating. So here's one thing I just want to ask you before we address the issue head on, which I've already asked John about it, but make sure in your room that nothing is up against the radiators. If you have your desk pushed up against the radiators, there's no way for heat to even get through into your room. It's just actually going to bounce off the radiators against the wall. All right, so make sure nothing's blocking those radiators. So along the windows, there's a heat radiator all on the wall. So make sure nothing's pressed up against it. Last year, our room was freezing. We went in there to check. Everything in their room was against that wall. The wardrobes, the desks, the beds, everything was against there. So there was no heat to come in the room. All right, so just check that first. If that doesn't work, if you can tell, okay, my room's good, nothing's against the heaters, the radiators, check the radiator to see if it's warm. If it's not, then check the pipe under the radiator. Okay, there's a pipe. It's not going to be so hot to burn yourself, I don't think, but just be careful. All right, so there's 3 different issues there. The heat could be in the pipe but not coming through the radiator. That means there's a blockage. But if you guys could just check all that first, and if it's still not working, then let us know, and then we'll make sure we deal with this ASAP. All right, by tomorrow for sure. Okay, so, yeah, Tony? You can eat in the hallways, in the lobby. If we need to use classrooms or library, we'll open up those spaces. I was just kind of monitoring this week. But make sure that you're only eating with your roommate at the table. And tables have to be 2 meters apart. 2 meters apart, is that right? Yeah, 2 meters apart. So like you'll see in the sidewalk cafe downstairs now, there's no more than two chairs at a table. If it's roommates sitting there, you can do that because you're already in connection with each other. But if not, then sit at another table. And we'll actually try to put more tables. Where are all those round tables, by the way? Yeah, I'll have to try and find those, and we'll make more space in the sidewalk cafe. I don't think it's a problem as long as not in your room. Yeah. Again, as long as there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but with Eden being gone, I don't feel real confident answering this. But you can't be more than 5 people, and you have to be distanced properly, right? So not in the hallway? I guess that doesn't make much difference than the residence lounge, does it? Yeah. Okay, why don't we say until we hear more for next week from the province, let's just say no in the residence. Let's just do it that way. Cool. Yeah. If you what? Sorry, if you get sick? Yes. Yeah. I would just say don't go out and buy space heaters because if there's a problem with the heat and it comes on, then you're hopefully not going to use it, right? All that construction that happened in the summer and the fall with getting those new units on the roof were supposed to improve the heat. So I asked the question today, if that's the case, then why do we have it colder in the residence than we ever have before? So there's obviously some kind of an issue, all right? So we're trying to figure out what that is. Kind of what, sorry? Okay, yeah, so in the COVID protocols that I put out that you signed, it said that you would need to wear the preferred master's mask. At that time, we didn't know if we could get masks, but we did. Everybody should have 3 masks that were given to them. If you haven't, how do we make sure everybody gets them? Okay, so they are medical grade masks. So again, we had a meeting with 4 members of public health, and there's certain things that they wanted us to do. One of them is increase our masks to medical grade. So you might have those yourself, that's cool, but we wanted to make sure if you didn't that we had some to give you. All right? Yep, that's what they are. So it's not the N93 or an N95 or whatever they are. They said they're too expensive, and they said 90% of people don't wear them correct anyways. So they're actually recommending the medical grade. They fit better and will do the trick in their opinion. So that's one of the things. Again, for us to be open, we had to say to them, here's what we're going to do. First of all, tell us what we need to do. And then we told them we're actually going to have isolation rooms, and that kind of tipped the scales to say, you guys have a great plan. You have a way to isolate students out of the general population if people are feeling sick. So that's why we have to be pretty rigid on this stuff, because public health didn't have to give us the thumbs up. In fact, after that meeting, they said, you can open tomorrow as far as we're concerned. We couldn't open tomorrow because we had other things we had to get together, but they were pretty happy with our plan. So we just need to follow through with that to be able to confidently tell them. We're not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes or trick them that we're doing something, but we're not really doing it. We're not going to do that. So, but thank you guys. As Eden said, everybody's been very cooperative, and we really appreciate it. And we know it's a long haul, but I think we're all kind of used to it by now, unfortunately, and we'll just keep plugging on until we don't have to do it anymore. Yeah, Marco. Yeah, another mandatory. Right. Yeah, so what we gave you before is... Yeah, no, they definitely said we want you to use a medical mask, so yeah. It's okay, we'll forgive you, Marco, for now. we know your heart. We know your intention. All right, any other questions? If not, we're going to quickly move on to the student leadership information. If you're not planning to stay for that, you don't have to. Any other questions, though? Cafeteria? Yeah. Sure.
Is it on?
Is this other mic on or no?
Hello? No, I don't think it is. There we
There it
go.
is.
Okay, so in our meeting with food services, Eldon just asked me to give you guys a bit of an update because the cafeteria staff is under a lot of stress right now just with COVID and everything. So I'm just letting you guys know this information so that as a student body, we can give more grace and be extra kind to them. There's just a lot of things that are in shortage right now, like the containers that we use for takeout and whatnot, stuff like that. So they're under stress for that, so please be extra kind to them. And then, I'm not going to give you all the details because nobody cares, but with all the inflation rates and stuff, unfortunately, we have to put an end to international nights this semester. So I know that's super disappointing, and we're hoping that as soon as possible we can bring it back. But I'm just letting you guys know that so that we don't give the CAF staff any attitude about that because they're just as upset as we are. So yeah, that's all I really had to say. Just they're going through a lot. We talked to them in our meeting and they were having a very stressful time. So just please, let's all give them extra grace and be extra kind because that's a tough job that I don't even want to do myself.
Okay, good. Thanks, Katie. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess they've had no problem with takeout containers so far?
They're different, but they have them.
Okay. Yeah, so as of our meeting last week, they didn't have any, so they were pretty worried. Getting those has been pretty difficult. Yeah, Jenny? Okay, I think you said we give you 3 masks. So they are reusable as long as you want to, and you can stand yourself wearing them. But yeah, we just started out with 3. I'm sure there's more available if you can't buy your own, but you can buy your own as well. Okay, they're pretty standard. It's what's sold in most stores, so yeah. Yeah, these aren't washable, no. Yes, Steph? Okay, so you either have a green container or you have a green card. Yeah, but okay, so that'd be gross. It'd be gross if you did, right? Yeah, all kinds of things growing in that container. Okay, so the new students that are here probably have no idea what that means. So hope there is an eco-friendly container that's washable that this CAF would prefer to use because not throwing away so much waste. So do the new students need to see you to get a green card or need to see Jeff or? Okay, so maybe talk to you. So talk to Steph then if you're not sure what's going on with that. And when those are able to be used again, you put them in use. Okay. All right, well, 2 weeks from now, we will actually be electing a new president and vice president for next year for student leadership. So it's a process we start early on because there's a lot of work to go into seeing every leadership role filled. Student leadership is important to us in student life, and I believe to your education because it's not just about learning educationally, intellectually, it's also about practicing that. And we try in student leadership to practice what our profs teach in the classroom in terms of practical ministry. So it's a way of you practicing that and gaining some experience and actually building your resume. It's a good resume builder and good references from people at Masters who see you in functioning in leadership roles. So it really does help you in the long run. Yes, Christian? It's on the YouTube link that we use for chapel. Yep. Pardon me? Is it streamed on a different channel, Colin, or is it the same channel? Ah. Is it being recorded? We can just post the link later, or? Okay. All right, no problem. So whoever's communicating to those people, just let them know that, okay? All right, so this is not meant to be a long meeting. I've actually put on the MCS Student Life Microsoft Teams a catalog of all the options and opportunities for student leadership next year. So you're welcome to browse through that. It's in the files there. There's also job descriptions posted there for everything from president, vice president, all the exec roles and RAs. The rest of them will be posted, hopefully by the end of this week. So if there's something you're interested in doing and being part of the student leadership team, take a look at that. Prayerfully consider what you're interested in. And then the application, I think, opens next Monday. So you can start applying for those roles. All right, so the way it works in our student leadership selection process is the president and vice president are elected by the student body. There's no election campaign. What we'll do is ask each of the nominees. You can either nominate somebody or somebody can apply. You can apply for it as well. And all the candidates will be screened by our Student Life Council, which includes Rich and Merv and Peter, Allison, and Christian, the current president. And there's certain GPA requirements. All that's listed in that catalog. It tells you what's expected, what you need to have. So those two are elected by the student body. The class reps are elected by the class. As you know, there's a vote in your class for who would be your rep for your class. So those will all happen in the next few weeks. And then it goes to applications for other roles, and we do interviews for those. All right, so that's kind of how the system works. And then people are chosen out of those interviews for all the other roles. And at the end of the semester, we then elect the rest of the class. We're going to call it class councils from now instead of executive, but the other people that will serve with the class rep. All right, so I just wanted to just pause here to just say if anybody has any questions about any student leadership, like general questions or about specific roles, those leaders are most likely in the room, and they can answer your questions as to what's involved with that role, what you might be able to expect in terms of what time to give it, and all those kinds of things. I will just say that student leadership is organized in such a way that there's a cabinet meeting every third to fourth week. It's 90 minutes, and it's the whole team coming together to discuss all school issues and get reports and updates as to what's happening with all the other teams. And then you'll have, if you're on a team, you'll have other meetings. Like Ministry of Logistics, for example, anybody involved with Ministry of Logistics, they have meetings on Thursdays at noon to talk through chapel planning and prayer and all those things that go with Ministry of Logistics. So you'll usually have a meeting every third week and probably a meeting weekly or bi-weekly if you're on a team, all right, just so you kind of know those general expectations. So anybody have any questions about student leadership in general or about a certain role that somebody here might be able to answer your questions on? Beautiful. Sometimes I like it when people have questions, sometimes I don't. Now, it's one of those times I'm happy if you don't. All right, well, I encourage all of you, even those who are in student leadership this year, I always love it when people who are in leadership, they say, you know what, I did this. I'd like to do something different that challenges me. So look through that catalog, see what the options are. And then if you have questions, please talk to us. We can direct you to the person on the leadership team. Actually, it's all listed in that catalog anyways, who has that current role. So you can talk to them privately. So there's roles, there's opportunities in the executive team. That's the 6 people who kind of lead with the president and vice president. They oversee the teams in social events, in communication with Dawson. Can't even think right now. Ministry logistics, Jubilee. Events with Randy. Admin and finance. If that's kind of your thing, or you think it's something you need to learn, we welcome you to learn overseeing the budgets for student life and student leadership. So all those different opportunities. So you could choose something you're good at, do something that you need to learn. That's the purpose of this, is finding a way, an opportunity to learn, right? So, okay, nothing else to be said then? Cool, then we're finished. If you could grab a couple chairs and stack them, that'd be really nice, and then we'll be out of here.